the pre-interview, you stated you witnessed 9/11 and that horrible tragedy. What were you feeling in towards that day, and could you explain?
Well, we were living in California, and I was working for a company that made airplane parts. All of a sudden, we're busy at work, and we hear over the loud PA system that a plane hit one of the towers. As soon as they said that the plane hit one of the towers, there was a lot of employees that had family in New York. So everybody was really worried, so they completely shut down the factory so that way everybody that had family in New York could go home and see what actually happened and see if any of their family was involved.
You also stated the Ronald Reagan bombing where he gave the order to bomb Iraq. Can you tell the story of what happened that day?
I was pretty young, so I don't know much, but we were having a lot of problems with terrorism, and they couldn't figure out how to control it. Ronald Reagan got a little annoyed and just gave the order and sent the bombs over there, and after that, we had no more problems for a while.
When you were stationed in the Philippines, you said your station was on alert because of a threat from Korea. Do you feel that you were ready at that point in time?
At that point in time, we weren't ready. We were going over there for maneuvers and to build the base. Not even 2 days after we got there, they put us all on alert, complete outfits, flight jackets, helmets, and had to carry our M16s fully loaded at all times. So it was a surprise to all of us.
In your time stationed in the Philippines, do you have any stories when you or someone you knew did something drastic out of fear?
Yes. When we were in the Philippines, one of the first things that we do when we unload is we make an armory. And when we had the armory, myself and a couple of other Marines, we were charged with guarding it on 4-hour shifts, walking around the armory to make sure that nobody got in there. One night, I was walking around with a female Marine, and she kept on hearing something rustling. And she was pretty much panicking, because since we were on alert, she was thinking the worst. And so it was really dark, almost no moonlight, and she kept on hearing rustling, kept on hearing rustling. And all of a sudden she thought something was coming at her, and she opened fire and unloaded her M16. When I ran over to her and asked her what the problem was, she said that something was after her, to find out that she shot a big fruit bat.
So are there any other stories that you might have containing your life, either in the military or with anything drastic, mainly?
We did a lot of things in the military, and a lot of things that we did in the military are drastic. And some of the things in the military I can't really talk about. It was just an interesting time in the military. I can just say that.
Okay.
In the pre-interview, you talked about the economy. Can you tell me more about what's changed since from your time to now?
Okay, about the economy, when I started to work, I made less than $1 an hour. Now they're making minimum wage, but even with the economy at the minimum wage that they're making now, it's still hard for people to survive. So it's better in some way. At least you can buy groceries, pay the rent, but then you have nothing left over.
So, you also stated about how the workers aren't getting as enough as their work supplies. really. So can you talk more about that?
Okay, what do you mean? Okay.
In the pre-interview, you talked about the economy. Can you tell me more about like what's changed since from your time to now?
Okay, about the economy, when I started to work, I made less than $1 an hour. Now they're making minimum wage, but even with the economy at the minimum wage that they're making now, it's still hard for people to survive. So it's better in some way. At least you can buy groceries, pay the rent, but then you have nothing left over.
So you also stated about how the workers aren't getting enough as their work supplies, really. So can you talk more about that?
Okay, what do you mean about work supplies?
More or less like money-wise, depending on hours.
Well, it's really based on what you do, but I think women have come a long way from being able to do the man's job, doing a man's job, but I don't think in some places they get paid enough.
Yeah. So you also talked about race and how that's changed toward race and stuff. More or less the United States.
Okay, you're talking about
Freedom.
freedom. I think that's come a long way because whenever I was growing up, we were taught different and different in a way that the black people did not ride our buses. If they did ride a public bus, they had to sit in the back. And I don't think that was right, but the way I was raised, that was the way things were then. It's come a long way from the 70s, but it's still, people still have issues. I think it's better for the black people because they're just like us, really. If you close your eyes, you don't see a color. If you see blood, it can come from both sex. I mean, white or black, not sex, but white or black people. Their color of their blood is the same as ours. So I've had different feelings about that when I was younger, but as I grew older, I have no problem with the race, any race. I mean, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, blacks, whites, anybody. So I wish that things were better for everyone, not just for the blacks.
So is there any other like changes that you've seen from your day of life, more or less as a child, to children nowadays?
Oh, yes. Back whenever I was small, younger, there was no videos, none of the things that the children now have, and they're so set in games, videos, phones, things like that, that they don't get the exercise that they really need.
So do you think electronics takes away from what they could have had?
Yes, I do. what they could do, because they're just, some, I feel like, are brain dead. If they don't have a video in front of them, or if they don't have a telephone, they don't know which way to go.
Mm.
So I think if they had more outside life, I think it would be better for them. But that's just the way things are now.
So talking about children nowadays, do you believe that respect to elders has changed?
Yes, I do, very much so.
Can you explain?
People back whenever I was growing up and when I was young, they had respect, and it was yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. And if your neighbor got on to you about something, they could even spank you. And they would. But now, if you talk about spank, they're talking about child abuse and calling HRS, which is wrong, because that's what's wrong with kids today. Half